What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us this fantastic Friday Eve on this new edition of Monsters of Madhouse, brought to you by Bridges Scoreboard, your Northwest Indiana Chicago sports headquarters with the Hall of Fame menu and the coldest beer in the land, the Chicagoland. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm with Michael, and we are going to take a little deep dive into what's going on with the Bears right now. And one of our favorite players, our upcoming player, he's just been doing a really solid job ever since he came in the Tyrique Stevenson. I mean, there's a lot of talk out there right now. They've been kind of beating it up, if you will. It's definitely an interesting thing to take a look at in terms of availability, because right now the best ability for the Bears is availability, Michael. I mean, it's been a turnstile of events as far as injuries go and guys and whatnot being banged up, offensive line, defensive backs. Not so worried that much about the defensive backs, but honestly, if they're carrying the team, you want to see them at full strength, because now the offensive line, who was already trash, is now like recycled trash. So it's like a weaker version of trash. It's like when your trash gets like wet or something. That's what our offensive line is, Michael. So I mean, man, it's great to see you on the show. I know you're busy with everything and all that, but thanks for joining us. So really quickly, man, we just want to give a special shout out to everybody in the audience that's taken the time to spend with us on Halloween, man. Happy Halloween, everybody. And we've got a really cool action-packed Halloween show for you. And we're coming up on the Bears Cardinals game. We'll get into that a little bit, but a couple things I want to talk to Michael about and get his opinion is Dan Weeder and a couple other guys. Everybody knows Dan. He's pretty well respected around, these parts and whatnot. And a couple other guys have brought up that from what they understand, it will not be a surprise if Tyrique Stevenson does not start Sunday in Arizona. Signs seems to be pointing in that direction. I think it could be that way. I'm thinking maybe potentially we're looking at it like in terms of just like a series, like a defense series, if that makes any sense. Kind of, a slap on the wrist, if at all. I mean, you're also looking at the possibility of, hold on, we'll get back to this too. But if you look right here, some of the scratches that are on here are defensive backs. And Kyler Gordon is still out. And Brisker, man, I mean, these are some big names to have out. And so why would you water down the talent that's already, we're in need of? So I just want to pick your brain really quick, Michael, and let us all know how you're feeling about all this, buddy.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for joining us, everybody in the chat. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. If you haven't already, appreciate you joining us for the night, and happy Halloween to everyone as well. And if you really, going back to it, if you really want to see something scary, look at the Bears injury report. I mean, it's about as bad as it can get, because your weak positions get weaker with the O-line. Kieran injured, Tevin injured, Jones injured. And then the DBs, the guys that we haven't seen for a couple of weeks with Brisker and Gordon, they might as well rule Brisker out.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. They might as well rule Brisker out at this point, because he doesn't have enough time to clear protocol. Because in order to clear protocol, you have to have at least some sort of activity Thursday and then a full practice on Friday. So he can't get that. He's going to not play again, which really stinks. But
well, Michael, let me ask you a question. In terms of a walkthrough, does that help availability if you just had a walkthrough and not an actual contact? Does that change the rule at all, or is it what it is?
I think it is, because I think Tevin Jenkins is a really good example of that, because Wednesday was a walkthrough. They didn't have any contact. He was limited. Today it was a normal practice with contact and normal O-line activities, and he was a DNP.
Right.
So I think that does really matter, because if they practiced for real Wednesday, he probably didn't practice. He probably wouldn't have practiced.
For real.
Would be a big loss. He was PFF's top-rated guard of the entire week last week. So
Yes.
losing someone like that on an O-line that's already battered and withered and
Oh man.
not good overall, not good.
Yes, sir.
So I do think it matters a little bit, but overall, not too much. It is a good sign, though, to see Sweat that he was a DNP in what would have been a walkthrough, and he actually practiced today with contact. That's probably the only positive on that entire injury report is Sweat.
So, in terms of like whether it being legal or not, is it potentially still legal for them to start him, or is there a clear, like, cut and dry line there where if he doesn't clear concussion protocol by Thursday, he's out? What does that look like? I'm
Yeah, it would definitely be illegal. He can't see the field until he clears concussion protocol.
right.
And kind of going back to what I said with you have to have some sort of activity Thursday and then a full practice Friday in order to clear it, because then that shows you're able to do football activities. They need 2 days of that, which then Thursday's the one, Friday's the other. They see how you feel Saturday. If you feel fine, you clear protocol, you're playing Sunday. But with him
Okay.
not doing anything all week, it's basically impossible for him to clear at this point, which is really disappointing.
It's very disappointing, and that kind of like moving the goalpost where, where we're looking at it in terms of like not being there, but still doing just a walkthrough and not contact. I wonder if that doesn't change anything. The rule
I
is
don't think
what
so.
okay, yeah, that rule is what it is, because but concussion is, that's like contact, whatever, but you would still walk through, but then you can't even be on the field if you're not cleared. So, yeah, it's so, well, you're hearing it first here. Are you a little disappointed that Jonathan hasn't stepped up into that role as far as safety, or are you happy with who we have back there, as a backup?
I think 𝐈𝐒 is fine. Honestly,
Yeah.
I didn't really notice him making any mistakes, which is a good thing because if you make mistakes, you're going to notice those more than the good plays. So the fact that I didn't really see anything wrong with his play on Sunday was a positive sign, and
Yeah.
that they could probably go another week with Brisker or not Brisker with him back there. And yes, missing Brisker stinks. He's obviously better than 𝐈𝐒, but Hicks
That's
has done
true.
a pretty good job filling in. I thought he had a really good preseason, and I was kind of confident in his ability that if the opportunity came for him to have to fill in for Brisker, that he would do so well. And I think he's done that so far.
I've seen him out of position, and not that I want them to go back and review anything or whatever, but I've seen him out of position, and I saw him hold, but they let it go. But so whatever. But yeah, you're right. He hasn't been horrible, and that's what you look for in terms of just basically filling in for a guy, because honestly, it's hard to cover a guy, fill in for a guy like Brisker, ain't it, bro?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think probably the bigger one to fill is Kyler Gordon. I mean, I think you can live in the Fluce's system without your starting strong safety, but with his scheme and how he likes to blitz that nickel corner so much, which is Kyler Gordon, not
Mhm.
having him kills a lot of what Fluce is able to do, and dialing up blitz packages stop the defense. That's by far the bigger loss for that secondary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I hear you, and you're true to about that, because you look at it in terms of like turning the ball over, giving a rookie a shorter field, right, and all of that, and the pass rush. Well, I mean, if we get enough, that's something that we need to look at, Michael. If we can dial up a good enough pass rush, then it can make any average secondary backup defensive back look a lot better than he is, right, bro? I mean,
Hmm.
you make him, if you put enough pressure on him, now it's like, okay, I have to speed up the clock. But now where are we at in terms of Murray, man? I mean, seriously, you almost have to have, a QB spy there, because that guy can take off in a moment's notice.
But yeah, and you go from Jaden Daniels, who I think is a better athlete than Kyler Murray, but they are still very quick out of the pocket. They'll kill you if you aren't able to contain them. And really the Bears did a great job with Jane Daniels. Yes, he ran for a little bit, but when you face someone like Jane Daniels, you're not going to limit him to no rushing yards. It's borderline impossible. He's going to find a way, but for the most part, they kept him contained. They pressured him 32 times on Sunday. I think that's by far the most Jane Daniels has been pressured in a game all year.
Wow.
And that was mainly Montez Sweat and Darrell Taylor. They had 13 of those 32. Really, the problem with the Bears was tackling. And that was kind of something I pointed out in the outline last Thursday, that they had to do well was tackle, because Washington had 104 yards after the catch. That's kind of Cliff Kingsbury's game. You get the ball out quick, let your playmakers get the yards, and the Bears didn't do a great job of containing that, and that's what killed them.
Yeah, it was bad. It was so bad. And, you know, I cannot believe, you look at it, the whole game, the Bears defense kept them in the whole entire.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even till the end, there was a shot. And even to the end where there was a Hail Mary, it was like there was no shot until there was a shot. And then we have like some taunting going on and not paying attention and then being out of position, 2 timeouts that you can't take with you. I mean, you're not going to save it for the next game. Burn one up if you see all the crazy going on. His hands are up, you know, you look at Eberflus, his hands are up in the air like he's got a bunch of children that are just acting crazy. But during all this, like, you kind of expect a coach to just bring everybody back together and say, hey, let's refocus, call a timeout, let's, figure this out. Like, there's no need to, even the play before that, the 13 yards that was given up. And then in terms of accountability, saying that play didn't matter. Oh, it did matter, because now you're giving him 13 yards closer to getting it into the end zone. And I'm not even sure without that tip ball, if I'd have to look at it again, Michael, I'm not even sure with that tip ball going back, if it would have made it even with the 13. And quite honestly, with the, that little rib injury, I'm not sure he's at full strength, tossing that up there, to be honest.
Yeah. That whole last drive was coaching malpractice, and really that whole entire coaching staff deserves every single bit of criticism that goes their way. And it goes back to, this is an old kind of thing. I'm going to kind of harp as someone that's younger on what new age defense looks like. Blitz on a Hail Mary. On a Hail Mary. I know that's not the old way. The old way is you rush 3, send everyone back and guard a man. That's dumb. You just saw the Lions do it last week against the Vikings, I believe. It was the same situation. Vikings were on about the 55-yard line, or they were 55 yards to go with 3 seconds on the clock, and the Lions sent 5 guys, and they got the Darnold in 2 seconds. Like, if you blitz 5 guys, you still have 6 back, so you're 6 on 5 still with DBs to wide receivers. You can still have a man-to-man responsibility and a free roamer to kind of do whatever they want, really. Maybe even play savior still. Make sure nothing gets behind them. And if you send 5, they can't get down the field in time.
No.
Right? It's going to be, at best, it's what I believe they had Eckler actually blocking. So it would have been 6 on 4.
Yeah.
Receivers to DBs. And you still would have gotten to Daniels in time, and they still wouldn't have gotten the ball 55 yards down the field in, let's say it's 3 or 4 seconds. It's just not possible. And then instead, Flus sends 3, has a quarterback spy like Jaden Daniels, is going to run for a 55-yard touchdown.
Exactly.
And his DBs don't know what they're doing. And one of them is jawing with the fans as guys are running down I mean, there is just so much wrong with that. And that's without talking about the 13-yard out route he allowed that said that doesn't matter. Because it absolutely did. The game's over. The game was over when there were 6 seconds on the clock and they have no timeouts.
Come on.
Right? Like, the game's over. Because they either have to hit the sideline. If you guard the sideline, they can't.
Right.
So then they have to complete something in the middle of the field, and that's the last play of the game, barring a defensive penalty or whatever. But that's why his whole, if we guarded the sideline, they audible into a Hail Mary type thing. That's BS. Because if you're guarding the sideline and all of a sudden you see them audible, run up the sideline. Just run up the sideline with them and meet them then in the middle of the field, down the field.
I'll tell you what, Michael. I'll tell you what, Michael. It is a lot. It is a lot to handle. It's people they're imploding, you know, and rightfully so. Bears fans have a right. I mean, honestly, we went from like on, you know, hey mom, look at me, I'm up on top of the world, you know, and then 2 weeks later we forgot how to play the game of football. And you even see some fans talking about, hey, Stevenson has one bad play. He's, you know, does bonehead, you know, deal. He's came to terms with it. He beat himself up with it. Why bench, you know, one of your best players when you might not even have Gordon, you might not even have Brisker. So now if you bench Stevenson, now where are we really at? You know, I mean, you've got Blackman and all that and a couple others, but I mean, honestly, they're kind of right. And I understand, you know, if you want to sit him out a series and whatever, and I'm not sure what that's going to do, especially since the fact that the Bears have been known to start slow. I mean, if you're giving up points because, you know, you've got that extra guy that might contain on the other side of the field next, you know, opposite of Jalen. I mean, we're really digging ourselves a hole, Michael, purposeful. And some of the fans are asking like, hey, how about we bench some of our coaching, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
I wish we could.
I know. I don't even know what that would look like. That would be really funny. Like, just sit down and shut up. Don't do nothing. Go get water bottles and fill. You know, I don't know what. If it's happened, we didn't know about it. So, but we are in this day and age where if you blink, you know, somebody sees it on camera. You know, so. But I mean that's where the Bears fans are at. You know, and the crazy thing about it is the defense is so darn good. The defense is so darn good, Michael. And we're just tearing them up. And we're almost forgetting about how bad the offensive line is. I mean, just because Caleb only had 2 sacks doesn't mean that he didn't deserve to have 15 or whatever, you know? I mean, look, I don't even know what the hurries was, but I'm sure it was a lot. And I saw a lot of running around and extending the play and whatever. And then when you don't get the ball to 𝐂𝐒, when you don't get the ball to 𝐂𝐒 towards the end of the very game, what I'm saying is, I mean, did we just bench Kmet, or should have he even took the plane ride? Because like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is just malpractice, man. It's just crazy. Like, what's going on? And let's not even go to the freaking fumble to like, what is that all about? You give that to your backup lineman and take it up the middle when Rashawn Johnson is like 100%. I don't think there's anyone else in the league that's 100% in the red zone in terms of giving the ball to somebody and them scoring each time you give it to them. But you're going to give it to this freaking, hey, and then here's the other thing. The offensive coordinator said, and quote, on the podium today, I believe it was, that if he had to do it all over again, he would. He feels like no shame. He thought it was the right call, and he will do it again. Like, either that's straight up arrogance or you're just an idiot. And basically, Seattle really didn't want you over there anyways. And they just kind of gave you to us. Like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, I can't even wrap my head around it. I just know it's a whole lot of record scratching. I just need a little help unpacking this, Michael. So I'm glad you're with me to help kind of put it all into perspective. And I see a lot of people in the chat that's coming up with a lot of good stuff. Jose, I don't think I've seen you in the chat before. So welcome, buddy. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Everybody, let's get those likes and hearts up, man. And make sure you subscribe. Hit that notification bell. So every time we bring something fresh to you, like Friday, we just had Urlacher on. Yeah. We had Brian Urlacher on this freaking show, and in a couple weeks we'll have somebody else. I don't even want to break it to our guys yet because I'll break their hearts if the guy don't show up. But in that, just how life is, man. It hits you fast, and think you have to just shake and move and adjust and overcome, adapt and overcome. But Monday, Jerry Azuma will be with us, and that'll be very exciting. Really good player, number 23. and be very exciting to see the Zoom on here on Monday night at 8:30. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And yeah, but let's get back to all the guys that are in the chat, and then I'll bring it back over to you, Michael. Great job, by the way, Michael.
Appreciate it. Good job to you too, man.
Thanks, man. Breaking news, Bruce, man. Thanks for always being on. He's one of our mods, and he's lightning fast, man. He's always breaking stuff. Sometimes I wonder if he's like related to Schefter, or he's in like the he's got him in his like Fab Five, group text or something, because he just breaks stuff out fast, man. Dano, well, one of our co-hosts, man, great dude, does live events with us. He'll be there Sunday with Big Cat Williams and Jim Miller. That's going to be a good one, man. We're going to have a good time up there. Also, James Paul JP will be up there, and that'll be at 2:00. We'll get into that in a little bit, but that's going to be a good time. Pre-game, autograph signing, pictures, the whole nine, man. Good drinks, good food, good fun. Giving away 55-inch televisions and anything that's not bolted down to the floor. Ron Winarski, man, thanks for showing up and showing out, man. I see you're a little frustrated. Just hang with us, bear with us. Remember, we're not the one calling the plays and the one suiting up. If we were, this score might be worse. But we're going to talk about it with you. I think I might be able to go out and block for a solid play, Michael. I don't know. Barrelissimo, thanks for showing up, bro. We appreciate you. For the man out east, man. We love you, man. Great dude, Barrelissimo, solid. Debbie Tuttle, thanks for showing up, baby. She's one of the former Honey Bears, Michael. She was a cheerleader.
Awesome.
We had cheerleaders, and
still have feels like forever ago.
Yeah. And Ron is hitting it up. Darius is one of our co-hosts. He's like on every night. I'm surprised he's not on tonight. If you want to be on tonight, Darius, we'll tap you in, bro. That guy's on all the time, man. Enjoy your day off. Barrelissimo again. Yeah, man. So yeah. Anyways, let's get back into it. Thanks for all your guys' comments and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, getting back to it, Michael, what do you say about this coaching like craziness going on, bro?
I mean, when you go back through like the past few games, I actually thought they were turning a corner. Like really ever since the Colts game, I thought Waldron's called some really good plays. He got creative with Doug Kramer acting as fullback, not running back, as fullback to plow the way for Roschon at the goal line. That was genius. Like you got to give credit where credit's due. When they were beating the hell out of Carolina and Jacksonville, I know not the greatest teams, but he was still dialing up really good schemes, getting guys open, and it looked like maybe a page was turning. I didn't expect the same maybe type of success all the time against great teams, but I did expect a lot better against Washington. No one was really getting open. O-line, was a lot of that. I think Caleb was pressured on, I believe it was 65% of his throws.
Yeah.
So 65% of his dropbacks, he had a guy in his face basically instantly.
Jeez.
I'm sorry, but there's just no quarterback. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, don't care who you throw back there. They're not going to be very good. And I started to get jealous watching the game because when Jaden would drop back, there would be 3 yards of room in front of him and the closest O-lineman. I'm like, man, if Caleb could have a game like that, he might throw for 400.
And here's to your point, Michael. Did you know that they were without their starting left tackle, who was a rookie, and then they had to falter to their backup left tackle, and then that guy went out. So I don't know, who did they call a guy out of the stands? I don't know. Did they call up the White House and say, "Hey, man up a security dude"? I don't know what they did, but that dude was solid and he did all right. Also, I will make a point that Jaden Daniels is one heck of an athlete, man. I saw where we got really close to him and he was rolling out right, and he had like his spidey senses up and he literally hurdled, not the type of hurdle that our running back Swift did, which was amazing. And I wish I had that illustration, that picture to show you guys, because that was amazing, dude. That was so cool. But he and as the guy is just, I forget who it was, coming from behind and trying to sack him, he hurdles at the right time and keeps rolling out. And I'm like, baby, I'm expecting him to suck air. I'm expecting him to be in pain because of these ribs and stuff. And I'm like, let's hit him hard. Let's get him in the baby back ribs. Let's have some ribs for Sunday. And I'm like, dude, he did not look like he had any problems at all doing anything,
Nope.
Michael. Oh, man.
I think he had a few throws that kind of he got affected by, because a lot of them would come up like a little short. Like it seemed like the guy was open for the most part, and it would be a little short in the dirt. And I think it was Roma on the broadcast said that's probably his ribs. He just doesn't have the same kind of power off his platform. But outside of maybe those 3 throws, I think there was only like 3 in the whole game, he looked like a perfectly fine QB. And that's a really good test, because by every metric coming into this game, Washington was like the number 1 or number 2, at least top 3 in almost every offensive statistical category, and they scored 1 touchdown on a fluke play. Like between the 20s, they were like Washington had no problem moving the ball, but the problem with the offense like Washington, where it relies on playmakers to get yards after catch, once you get in the red zone and you have guys only 10 yards down the field instead of 15, maybe 20 playing safety, that doesn't really work. And that was something I thought was going to happen in this game. The Bears defense in the red zone was going to be good, and it was. And if you told me that they kick 4 field goals and have 1 touchdown, I think we win this game by 2 possessions. But a lot of it goes back to the offense. But this defense in this game was fantastic, and they played a really solid 59, 54 seconds. And sadly, it was those 6 seconds that lost them the game, which is still mind-boggling.
Really quickly, yeah, that it was mind-boggling, and it's mind-boggling that guys like Barrelissimo, I'm telling you, by far and away, I said it all the time. You guys have heard me say it. I know you've heard me say it, Michael. We have the smartest fans in all of sports, man. Chicago has it going on, and I'm not talking about living in Chicago. I'm talking about fans, because Barrelissimo is in like Europe, dude, and this guy is freaking brilliant. He just said right away, TJ Edwards was the dude he jumped away from. And I automatically, as soon as he said it, I'm like, yep, that was him. I didn't even have to second guess him. I knew right away. I was like, yep. And here's another thing he just brought up. Commanders scored 0 touchdowns in 60 minutes. I mean, seriously, like when you look back.
Uh-oh. Not sure if we just lost tracks or not. Yeah, I'll keep it going unless Trax ends up connecting back. I'll send him a quick text real quick saying that I think we lost him. But yeah, Barrelissimo, you bring up a good point. They didn't score, really. Like, they were able to move the ball within the 20s, which was a little disappointing to see. I don't know. I don't really have it right next to me right now how many total offensive yards. Give me a little bit. I can get that. But I believe it was close to 500, I think. Yeah, 481 total yards, but only 4 field goals. They got to the red zone, and they couldn't do anything. And you have to credit the Bears defense and Eberflus a little bit, even if they ended up losing the game, that they held such a high-powered offense to really doing nothing, right? So if your offense isn't able to do anything against the Bears like that, again, it sets you up for lots of success. And you look at the Bears offenses they have to play. They still have to play Detroit. Minnesota's high in every metric, and Green Bay. Like, the NFC North as a whole is a juggernaut. Even San Francisco, they'll probably be healthier back then. Or they'll have CMC back. And that offense with CMC is a completely different beast. Like, Jordan Mason did a good job filling in for them. But for the most part, that offense is withered. Debo's kind of knocked down. But, yeah, that's why Eberflus does his dumb stuff. But as a defensive coordinator, he is fantastic. One of the best in football. I don't think that's such a question mark. I don't think anyone questions his ability to call defensive plays. It's just the head coaching responsibilities that he's not so great at. And it's not possible for him to step down as D coordinator and then they go out and sign a new head coach. That just doesn't happen. It's too much pride in the NFL to step down in a situation like that. That obviously be best case scenario, but it's just something that I don't think will happen. Let's see this. The reason they had so many yards is because our punter had a hell of a game and our D is bend up break. That's also another really good point. Is Tory Taylor really, he's shown why he is worth the 4th round pick. There are a lot of people that question Tory Taylor's the pick right when they did it. And I wasn't one of them. I knew exactly why they did this, because they had the worst net punting, I believe, in the NFL last year. And when you have someone like Tory Taylor, where your offense was struggling like the Bears was Sunday, you're able to flip the entire field. And he had a few that went deep, and Washington return man actually just had a really good return to get even better field position than what they should have. Punts that were inside the 20, 15, then you bring them up maybe around the 25. But yeah, Tory Taylor was by far one of the best players in that entire game for most of it, since neither team could score. And yeah, I'm seeing it now. He did have 5 punts inside the 20. He had 341 total punt yards, 7 punts, 68 yards was his longest punt, which is mind-boggling. He's a rookie, and I believe he's a top 3 punter in football. I honestly couldn't tell you the best punters, but Tory Taylor has to be one of them. And his impact on the Bears shouldn't go unnoticed, because the odds of you finding a 4th rounder, even wide receivers and corners, the odds of you finding someone to have an impact on your football team as much as Tory Taylor has had on the Bears, it's really hard. I believe the hit rate's about 10-15% on 4th rounders that become NFL impact players. And they have one in Tory Taylor, and one probably for a long time. And it's something that, since we had the worst punting in the NFL last year, it's something that we kind of forgot about, like how you can flip a field with a really good punter. And now that we have one, it's really good to see that if the offense stalls out after a touchback, they're 4th and 14 on their own 25, you have your punter coming out there and you're going to flip the field, and the offense is starting on their 25. It's super nice and a huge luxury to have, and it's a good hit from Ryan Poles. But I did want to touch a little bit on the whole topic with Tyrique Stevenson, because obviously what he did Sunday was pretty terrible. Like, there's really no going about it. It's a national embarrassment, which has caused the Bears, the entire team. And it really sucks, because Tyrique Stevenson's been one of the best corners in football, at least in man coverage. He has the second best, I believe it's separation rate for corners in the entire league. In the entire league, he has the second best separation rate. He's absolutely nails in man coverage. You just notice him a lot more because of who he plays on the other side of. He plays on the other side of Jalen Johnson, who's probably the best corner in football. He probably is. Like, I think Surtain's really good. You could probably interchange them 1 and 2. But with how Sauce has played this year, he hasn't been great, and Ramsey's fallen by the wayside. So those are your 1 and 2 corners. So when you play alongside someone like Jalen Johnson, you're going to get targeted more, right? Other teams aren't going to target Jalen Johnson. That's why Terry McLaurin had so many yards. They targeted him only when he was on the side of Tyrique Stevenson. He beat him once, but overall, Tyrique Stevenson's a very good player. He's well talented. Looks like Trax is back.
Hey, what's up, buddy? Can you hear me?
There you go. Yeah, I hear you.
Sorry about that, man. I lost the internet at the house. I don't know what's going on. So I'm on my phone now, but we'll make it work, right? So.
Yep, we'll make it work. Call an audible.
So what did I miss so far?
Barely Smo pointed out Tory Taylor's impact in the game. So he talked about that for a little bit and how impactful overall he's been for the Bears in flipping field. And then I was just going to get into Tyrique Stevenson a little bit, which is right where you hopped in.
Oh, you're getting into Stevenson. Okay, cool. That'd be interesting to break that down. Let's have at it, man.
Yeah, so I was just basically saying that he's really been a really good man-to-man corner in all of football so far. I think he has the second best separation rate allowed. So he's been really good for the Bears in man coverage. And the only reason you notice him getting beat often is because of the guy he plays on the other side of is a top 2 corner in football. So no team's going to throw at that guy. They'll take the other side of the field, even if it's against a good corner in Stevenson. And it's really a shame that this is now how the NFL world knows Tyrique Stevenson, as the guy that was showboating at the end of the game and then tipped a Hail Mary to lose the game. It's a real shame, because he's been a really good player for this defense. He's super important for this team. Without him, they are a shell of themselves. And then you take away Gordon and Brisker out of the team. I mean, Jalen Johnson can't do it all. He can only take one side of the field. And when you have Tyrique Stevenson on the other side, he's been really good. He had the one mistake, he let McLaurin get behind him and Daniels hit him. But overall, up in that entire game, he was pretty good. He had the one 15-yard penalty early in the game for hitting someone in the face, which said was dumb at the time, and thought he would learn from that one, and he clearly didn't. But the team needs Stevenson. It's a shame that, like I said, now the national NFL world knows him as an idiot, but because he's a really good player. He's still young. I believe he's someone that should learn from this, and it was good to at least see him take accountability with the guys in the locker room, and hopefully it's just a moving point or a learning point forward for a team that's still relatively young by NFL standards, and they just learn from it. That's really all we can hope for as fans.
Yeah, and I think the way to go about it is that if you are going to have, a kid like this play, is kind of leave it up in the air right now and let it just kind of take care of itself and then work it out, in the end, and then call it at the end of it. Like maybe even the coaches already know that Stevenson is going to go ahead and play. But if you just play like, you're thinking about it, you're on the fence, whatever, it looks like you're doing your due diligence and they're, making him sweat it out, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? But they might have already had a discussion like, listen, bro, don't beat yourself over it. We're good. We know it's never going to happen again. We feel it's never going to happen again. It better not ever happen again. But
yeah, right.
Honestly, if something went down with Jalen, Stevenson is my go-to guy, bro. Like he's my number one right away. He's not my number one when Jalen's healthy. And I'm always looking at that shoulder because you never know what can happen with Jalen. I mean, in college and then right away into the pros, he had that issue with that shoulder. So you have to have a guy like Stevenson in the building. And like I said, I'm with you. I don't think he's going to be a repeat offender. To me, it shows that when he stepped out right away, I mean, he's got more accountability on himself than the damn coaches do. The coaches have no remorse. They're saying that they're going to call the play again, which to me is repeat offenders for malpractice. So I'm just frustrated about that whole thing, man. We need to put it behind us. I'm glad we're talking it out. It did come out again. There was several instances where people were talking about this, and it came up in the press today at the press conference. And now, Wiederman says, he doesn't think that he'll make it. Well, he didn't come out right and say he didn't think we'll make it. He just says he wouldn't be a starter. So, like I said, I think at the very least, or at the very worst, he misses a couple plays, but you're not going to not start that guy the whole game, bro.
Yeah. And that was kind of something like my immediate reaction was bench him. Like, this is completely unacceptable. You're a professional. This is stupid. And now you cost your team the game. But honestly, it was my dad that kind of pointed me in a different direction because you had a good point. If you're benching Tyrique, that hurts the whole team. Right?
Yeah.
Again, no one's going to deny that it was a mistake and dumb mistake at that. And it's completely unacceptable. But by benching him, you're bringing something that happened in one game and affecting another, which isn't good. You need to kind of flush that and move on from it in any way possible. Again, there has to be some sort of accountability with that action, but I don't think benching him completely for an entire game now is the right answer because with a team that is probably going to be down Gordon and Brisker, you can't really afford to lose Stevenson too in a game that is super important if you still have playoff hopes on the line. So I think just benching him for a series is probably the right way to go. Send a message that's unacceptable and hopefully let him go redeem himself on the field Sunday.
No, yeah, you're right. And I think so. So let's move on. Let's talk about what do you got next? Are we going to talk about Sunday a little bit or what else you got?
I want to talk a little bit about the offense Sunday because I think there's a lot going on in the offense. The defense was really good. We had the brain fart at the end, and it sucks. But the fourth quarter was encouraging to see with the offense, and mainly it comes with Caleb because if you go all the way back to January or just before the draft, not really sure when Flu said this, but he made a point that the most important characteristic of a quarterback is what he does in the fourth quarter. And we're no stranger to see what Justin Fields was in the fourth quarter. He was by far the worst in the NFL, and Caleb is probably the opposite. I don't think he's the best, but he's been really good in the fourth. This year, after Sunday, he's now 39 of 60 for 402 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception in the fourth quarter. And Sunday, he had 35 passing yards, I think, heading into the fourth. He was 6 of 11 for 95 passing yards, adding 5 rushing yards, so 100 total yards. and he led what should have been 2 touchdown drives, and one should have been the game-winning drive. So if there's one positive to take out of it, it's Caleb Williams he brings his best when the game's on the line, and that's probably the main thing. That you can't judge that in the pre-draft process. You have to wait to see that on the field. Like that, there's no characteristic for that, and he's proven he's got the clutch gene, like Bellissimo just said. That's absolutely huge if that's your guy that you think can win championships.
Yeah, and I like what you and Bellissimo was talking about right now, because it does make sense. And you are right. Like, just because you do something really well at the college level doesn't necessarily mean that's going to translate to the pro level, especially when the game is a lot faster and you just got there. So for him to be where he's at right now is pretty freaking cool, man. And shout out to him and what he's doing. And I think once this gets all put together and he actually has a defense, decent, not a defense, he's got a defense. When he has a decent offensive line, I'm telling you right now, as God is my witness, he's going to look like, he is going to look pretty freaking spectacular, man, especially with all the weapons that he has. And, man, let's talk about Swift, bro. Shout out to Swifty, bro. I'm a Swifty, bro. Oh my gosh, that guy's so good, ain't he? And I really wasn't that excited because he went from Lions over to Philly, right? And then over to here. And I'm like, that was a quick turnaround. Like, does he have baggage? What's going on? And I was like looking at guys like Saquon Barkley, and I was like praying, and I'm like, Saquon, it's Saquon we trust. Come on, we need a guy. And now I'm like quickly becoming like this Swifty, like, fan, and he won me over with that hurdle, man. I'm telling you, God is my witness. I jumped up at Bridges scoreboard. I jumped up in the air and almost punched a hole through the freaking ceiling tile because I was so excited. I mean, that was so cool.
Yeah. DeAndre Swift, I think now it needs to be said more than ever, he is the engine of this entire offense. Like, again, we can see, when did the offense start looking good? It was the end of the third, beginning of the fourth. And what sparked it? A DeAndre Swift 55-yard touchdown run. Like, it is completely known now. DeAndre Swift is what runs this offense. Sadly, it's not Caleb yet. That's not really his fault. I just don't think the O-line can stand up long enough to be an engine, but they've been really good run blocking. You have to lean on the run. You have to.
So in terms of that, why wouldn't we hand the ball off to him when we're in the red zone, in goal territory, or even Rashawn? I could understand maybe, Michael, if you didn't give it to Rashawn because he didn't have enough touches beforehand and you're a little nervous. But that wouldn't be the case if you hand it to Doug, because he never has his hand on the ball, bro.
Yep.
I can see 𝐂𝐿 lining up there, but behind him before you know what I mean? I'm trying to process this. I mean, I had to go back, and a couple other fans, obviously had to go back all the way back to Walter, right? We did some really cool things with 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄, but that was more like on the tight end catch the ball type thing. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden we saw it once, we're like, 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄's going to play tight end and be the best linebacker in the world, and all that stuff. And, but man, I don't know that just flat out stunk, man. And, as bad as our offensive coordinators have been, I can't remember a time where any of them was that boneheaded of trying something like that. Our game was on the line, brother. Our game was on the line.
Yep. Well, again, you can go back to 2018. It was against the Giants, right? That's when they had the Akeem Hicks rushing touchdown against the Giants in that game. But again, the situation's different. Like, people bring that up. They'll bring the fridge up for what the Bears have done historically with plays like that. But the situation you can't do it in that situation. I think I saw someone said, like, the Bears ran William Perry 6 times in 1985. Every single one of them came with a lead because the Bears knew they were better than you, and it didn't matter what they did. They were going to score, so they just decided, why not give it to the fullback? With Akeem Hicks, it was the same thing. The Giants sucked. You could do that, and you still thought you were the better team. You can't do it when you're down 5 with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Give it to Roschon because listen to this. Roschon Johnson is the NFL's only player to score a touchdown on 100% of their carries inside the 5-yard line, which is 4 carries. But, like, what a blessing that is to have a guy that scores every time he scores inside the 5-yard line, and you give it to the goddamn backup O-lineman with the game on the line. Like,
bro, you know, I said
they're
that
just
in less words. I said that earlier. I didn't say it like precise with all the stats and whatever, but
yeah,
I did say it was 100%. So I'm like, if anything's 100%, hey, listen, if I got 100% in my world, I'm going to that every time because there is not one thing in my life that's 100%, pal. And I'm trusting that over a guy who never gets the ball ever, bro.
Yeah, and there's just like, again, it's been almost 4 days now, and it's just still something you can't wrap your head around. Just
Something you
how
can't let
incompetent.
go.
No,
No,
it's not, because it just feels like this game is gonna be a difference. And come the end of the season, week 18's over with. Whatever happens in that week, the Bears will probably find themselves one game out of a playoff spot, and we'll just look at this game for 5 months further now. Like, it just feels like it has that sort of long-lasting punishment with the game. I hope
well, and
not,
I'll be
but
honest. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. As far as the Cardinals, they are sneaky good. I mean, on paper,
oh yeah,
when they
they are.
first start off in the beginning of the season, I was like, whoa. Now, I think a lot of it has to do with just being up and down as far as, you know, the offense goes. And then there's not getting any pressure, you know, and getting, you know, any hurries on the quarterback. But now they got that rookie coming back on the line. And
Yeah,
I don't
Darius
even know if he's
Robinson.
yeah, and I don't even know if he's played at all this season, but that's an
He hasn't.
instant upgrade. That's some instant help, and that's the wrong time that we need him to come back. Hopefully, there's some rust on that guy, and he just doesn't come out there and school us and play lights out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I actually had the privilege to watch a lot of Darius Robinson because he went here at Mizzou, so I
Mizzou, yeah.
watched him a lot, and he was a key cornerstone for our entire defense last year, and he's
Yeah.
really good. He's really good. He flew up draft board due to him in the Senior Bowl. I never really understood where he was first viewed as like a third rounder. I always thought he was better than that because
Yeah.
what he does on the football field is great with his ability to just blow past linemen, and him playing against what might be our third string left tackle now, that is scary. That is scary because he's a guy that could easily dominate the game. We saw what happened with Karan against what isn't a great pass rush from Washington. Darius Robinson's better than that. So it's definitely scary for the Bears with him coming back for Arizona at a time where your tackles are at your weakest.
I saw some promise and some flashes of goodness with Karan, but from everything that I've read and I've heard, he might be out, if not at least this week, possibly another week. And that's a bad time right now. And I hate saying that because this is a late round draft pick rookie who might not even be ready anyways, but obviously they didn't have a choice but to go to him. And now, you know, we got our right guard, Billy. He's out too. I mean, there's multiple places. And Tevin, I don't know where Tevin's going to be at because I saw some really excruciating, like, you know, winces from him and some pain and just, you know, he's getting beat down right now, man. And I think if anything, he does right now, if he plays through it, it's definitely going to be very painful. And he's got to try to stay on the field and play it, not only for his team, but for self-preservation because he's in contract year and
Yep.
he's got to show up and show out. So we need him out there. And I hope that he can, because if he's over there at the left side and Borum comes in, he'll be able to help him out. And I think that's really important. And I don't know how much time they've shared together. I know Tevin's bounced around everywhere. I mean, they got him bounced around like a BB in a beer can, man. So Tevin's probably played damn near every position out there except freaking center. And we don't even know if he's even taking some snaps. I mean, you don't know what they're doing in practice and stuff, you know, but it's good to have that guard over there that's going to help a guy like Larry Borom out. And I know he's got that ankle, but he was a full participant in walkthrough, which isn't really a whole lot. But, I mean, it's still promising because outside of that, I don't know who you turn to, brother, in terms of, your third string left tackle, especially I do know Karan was supposed to be that third string. You know what I'm trying to say to you?
They might. I think best case scenario is Larry Borom's able to return and take over. I
Yes.
think he's better than Karan because Karan had what I call a seesaw game. He had very high highs because he had the key block for DeAndre Swift's touchdown run. Without his block, that doesn't happen at all, which was very good to see. But on the other side, he had 4 pressures allowed in 26 snaps and allowed guys to just run around him easily and get to Caleb really fast and allowed. I believe there was 1 sack and then Caleb had to escape and then eventually got sacked. It was bad in pass pro, but in run blocking, it's at least good to see him be good in run blocking because he's a project O lineman. We knew that. And he was kind of tossed into an impossible situation. So I don't really want to harp on him too bad, but I also don't want to sugarcoat it either.
Well, and then I saw a pancake he had, right? And he definitely handled business over there. But when they doubled down over him on his side, and obviously when Tevin went out, he had his hands full. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm talking about over there. So, but he's going to get used to that NFL speed. And quite honestly, the only way to get used to that NFL speed is to unfortunately be out there in that NFL speed, because repetition leads to retention, and you've got to have that in order to get anywhere. And I know what you're saying. And is he ready? No. But they can game plan around that and work around that one, Karan. But I agree with you. Borom has definitely a lot more reps. He's been in that situation. He's played. I'm with you. I feel comfortable, but it's still not the best because Braxton isn't there. And I think even Braxton's out a week to 2 weeks at best. So now we're looking at Kevin's banged up, Braxton Jones is a week to 2 weeks out. Our right guard, it's a mess. Now Pryor is now maybe that's where it is. Maybe Pryor swims over and plays left tackle if Borom, sputters a little bit. And what about that Charger, that the offensive lineman that the Bears picked up that was a former Charger? What's he looking like?
Coleman Shelton?
No.
No?
The San Diego Charger. They just recently picked him up, and then they had to release that backup long snapper.
I'm actually not sure. I think you stumped me, Trax.
It just happened within the last couple of days. I've been looking at a lot of stuff that Brad Biggs has been posting and stuff. He's got all the insider, like he's just that X app sounds like a slot machine, man. It's just he keeps it busy, bro. So yeah,
I'm looking at their depth chart. I don't see anyone new. Maybe he's on the practice squad, so that's why he's not on the depth chart.
So if you're searching, which I can't right now because I'm down to my phone, and I think these high winds that are gale force winds up until tomorrow blew out my internet. So I'm glad my power's still on. That's a positive thing. But yeah, so if you look at just Bear sign Charger lineman, it should come right up because they had to make a move. That was one of the few moves that they had to make in terms of, moving guys around and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It was carousel. It's crazy. But I don't even know if he has any statistics behind him or if he's just a body. You know what I'm trying to say to you?
I'd assume he's just a body because of the injuries that the Bears have. But on the bright side, they are probably going to have Borom come back. He's practiced in full both days this week. That probably puts him on track to start left tackle. And what's his name? Ryan Bates. He's been limited both days so far, which I also think that puts him on track to return as well with the injury to Jenkins and Borom. You might see both of those guys starting for the first time this entire year with the Bears. And little tidbit on Arizona, they are the worst pass rush in all of football, and it's not really close. Least amount of sacks, least amount of pressures. So if you're going to go into a game with O-line injuries, this is probably the best matchup to have it. So it's a little bit of fortunate luck there for the Bears. We still don't see those injuries and how Caleb's been affected with those. You just got to kind of almost sit back and pray as a fan nothing happens to him.
So the Bears released, according to Brad Bigg, Chicago Tribune, they released long snapper Jake McQuaid, and they signed Austin Pleasant because Bill Murray had that pectoral injury, and now he's on injury reserve. So, and I'm gonna tell you right now, boys, the pectoral injury is no joke.
Yep.
I'm hoping, I'm hoping that he's all right, but you have to be careful, especially being an offensive lineman. You're firing away that muscle a lot, mostly your back muscle, your tricep, and your core. But honestly, you do have some of that pectoral there, and you feel it every time that you fire, your hands away. So, yeah. So this guy, Baralissimo, just gave us his measurables. He's 6'7", 312 pounds. So at 6'7", he's very lengthy to be a guard, but he might have shorter reach for 6'7", because I've seen that before where a guy's like super tall and he's kind of like, it looks like he's got alligator arms, but even though they're longer arms than you and me, he's still got short arms for being as tall as he is. You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I believe he's just probably a body, though, with all the injuries. And hopefully, I feel like that's a guy that you hopefully don't see come into a game, because then a lot of stuff has really hit the fan. But it's still good. You need the depth, especially at a weak position group.
But I mean, hey, in all honesty, we really didn't think that Bill Murray was going to be that dude. So
Yeah,
let's hope that this
true.
is the second coming of Bill Murray, brother.
Yeah. And also, I'd like to point out that I'd way rather see Ryan Bates start this game for the Bears than I would Nate Davis. Please, no more Nate Davis. We need to be done with him.
Did you see that they were actually entertaining the Bears absorbing some of that contract and trying to trade him before the trade deadline? I saw that in the last couple of days. Yeah, so that was encouraging, but it almost came at the same freaking time where we have this carousel of injuries. So it's almost like, well, is he back in the is he back in the saddle again, at least as a backup? And then how long does that last? Because do you pick Pleasant, or do you pick, a guy that's been a starter in Nate Davis? I mean, I hate to say it, but a few weeks ago I told you so. And I didn't want to be right, but this does happen a lot in the NFL. Look at what just happened to the Vikings. And then they pick up a guy over there, Cam Robinson, over at the Jaguars. Now, I actually like Cam. I don't think he's a top, offensive lineman, but you put him over there with the right guard that can help him out and shore that up, and then have a good leader in the as far as a offensive line coach and things like that. You can actually elevate somebody and bring some life into him too. And I know I've seen some offensive linemen over there that worked out pretty good. We picked up some Vikings offensive linemen. Remember that guard that we had, and he was trash. But he looked a lot better over there in the Viking uniform than he did in a Bears uniform. So, I mean, it just depends, man. It really depends on what a lot of different things too. And I will say this though, and I have reason to believe that there is a little bit of um, saying the right thing and having your guys back in the locker room, but you don't have to go all in. And I think Swift has spoke very highly of his offensive linemen. So if there's any silver lining, it's that we need to dedicate ourselves to running the ball a lot more. Because if these boys are actually maulers and really good at run blocking, we need to do that a lot more and pass a lot less until our offensive line start to get healthier. And I think our defense does a pretty good job of keeping us in the game, and we shouldn't have to pass the ball a whole heck of a lot, and I think that might be the right look. What do you think about that, Michael?
Yeah, it goes back to DeAndre Swift being the engine of this offense, and again, I just don't understand why they don't start off running the ball. Like, it feels like they might run the ball the first or second play, and if it doesn't get like 5 or more yards, they kind of just go away from it entirely. Like, they don't commit to it.
Yes.
Like, there's no commitment in the run game. And since his first 2 games where he had 37 carries, 68 yards, no touchdown. Oh, that's actually his first 3 games for the Bears of DeAndre Swift. Since then, 72 carries, so about double for 386 yards and 4 touchdowns. That puts him on pace for 1,500 scrimmage yards and 9 touchdowns. That's one of the best running backs in football if he's able to keep that consistency going, which is huge for a rookie quarterback to have because the offense doesn't have to flow through you. And it just doesn't make sense why Waldron hasn't committed to an offense centered around the running back and not the rookie quarterback. It's, again, it's funny. It just all leads back to coaching, really, and it just sucks.
Yes. And, Caleb said it best, today. And he said, good teams have good coaches, and great teams have great players, and they basically, he's putting everything on the players, like accountability and all that kind of stuff. And I love that. I like that. I think that's great. But you also have to have a little bit of, you can't be, a greenhorn there, and he can't say Omaha every time he wants to. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's starting to get a good grasp of the playbook. A lot of the playbook isn't out, and I don't even know how much of this playbook is going to be there next year if Waldron gets his freaking walking papers. You know what I mean? I hope they get it all figured out, and Waldron doesn't get his walking papers, and we turn everything around, and Flus is here for another year, because I don't know what it's going to look like unless you go get a savior, like a guy that's a proven head coach that has dominated. I don't know what that's going to do to Caleb, man. I really feel like, and I saw something, and I want to touch on this really quickly. I feel like we're hindering and stunning Caleb's growth, man. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's close. Like, I don't think it's absolutely been great by any means, but I think Caleb's honestly been good enough to be above this terrible coaching, because I was actually looking kind of just for fun, because I was looking at CJ Stroud and I didn't think he was having a good year, and the numbers backed it up. But for fun, I kind of looked at Caleb, and since week 2, so this counts week 3 until now, he's been a top 13 quarterback in football. Like, he's been up there above average in just about every aspect, and which is good to see. Good to see, because we haven't really seen that in Chicago since maybe 2012 with Jay Cutler. It's been a long time, and we saw how Cutler phased out, but Caleb really seems to be getting it. He seems to be growing, and I think it comes down to not stunting his growth, but just how much or I guess that kind of is stunting. But, like, I don't think they're going to fail him. Like, he's going to fail out of the league. I think there's a difference between maybe bad coaching with what they did with Fields and kind of not putting him in a good situation at all. But I honestly think Caleb's talent is just too good. He'll be good enough to be above the bad coaching that the Bears have. It's just we might not see his ceiling until he finally gets a competent offensive line or a coordinator that knows what he's doing, which kind of stinks. But the fact that he's able to show this much promise as a rookie in what many will say a bad situation, I mean, the sky's the limit with this kid. It's really cool to watch.
It is, and I love him, and you know that I'm a big USC guy, and I also followed in Oklahoma. My family's from there, originally, and so it's cool to see him go from one team that I follow to one team that I love, and a team that I love more than those two teams. It was just like, dude, why wouldn't you want that same guy? It's like if you had a Mizzou quarterback, and the Bears didn't have Caleb, and you heard that, yeah, absolutely, sign me up, man. I'm winning the lottery, bro. So, but you look at Jaden, and you look at all the stuff that Jaden has and what he doesn't have. There's a lot of stuff that we have in terms of like players, roster, receiver, running back, depth, all that tight end. I mean, they don't even see the tight end that backup we picked up from the Chargers. I mean, like, don't really see him much in that. But I mean, how could they use him if they're not even using Caleb or Cole until the very end of the game? So you know what I mean? It's like so many mouths to feed, but they're not pulling up the right plays, and they don't have enough protection. But a lot of this, I feel, with coaching, when you look at, like, Washington, the way that they're handling Jaden and everything, man, talk about beautiful. You know what I mean? I mean, that offense over there, they're like top 2, right? Or top number 1 or 2, or they're in the top 5
Yeah,
for sure.
total offense, they're top 3 at least.
Right. So you look at that, and then you look at what we got, and I'm not comparing Caleb to Jaden as much as I'm comparing what each has, and it's just crazy. Like, we have more than they don't, and then they have more than we don't. And it's like, I think what we don't have in terms of, like, coaching and all of that, and protection, is not as damning as us not having the coaching, brother, if that makes any sense, and protection. So it's just crazy, man. And that we were going to, I was going to be looking at this during the whole game, because how could you not look at 1 and 2 in the draft? And this is like the NFL knew what they were doing, Michael, when they put this freaking script together, when they put number 1 versus number 2, because there's only been a couple handful of times in the history of ever, through 1967 in the Super Bowl era, where they've put a number 1 and a number 2 quarterback in the draft together and played them against each other in their rookie year, So.
Yep. And best part about it is 2 weeks we'll get 1 versus 2. And hopefully Drake May and Caleb stay healthy. 2 weeks it'll be those two facing off. That'll be fun.
Yeah, that will be good too, man. You make a good point. That would be so good, man. And I think we have a better chance at that than we did. It's just crazy how life works. It hits you fast, especially in the NFL, because I didn't even circle Washington. I did not circle Washington. I didn't know Washington. I don't even know if Washington knew that they were going to be this good. Oh, quite honestly.
No.
I mean, you fleece them, and they're just stupid for getting rid of Sweat. Sweat is a freaking beast. He's a mountain of a man. He's the best freaking defensive player we have on our team, and we've got him, and they don't. And, Chase is gone too, but whatever. He's just a big household name. He's not really as good as, he was supposed to be, right? But, you look at that team, and it's just like, wow. You lose that, and if we lost that, we'd be in trouble, right?
Yep.
And they're still looking really good, brother.
Yep. Yeah, they seem to be legit. I still think the Eagles are the team to beat in that game.
Yeah.
Or in that division. Like, I'd still pick the Eagles to win that division, but Washington will make the playoffs. Like, they're going to be really fun to watch for a while, and this is only the first chapter in what should be hopefully your Mahomes-Allen version of the NFC between Williams and Daniels. It should be a lot of fun for a lot of years, and hopefully this is the worst part of it, and the Bears have a lot more positive outcomes with this. Like, I'll take this loss if it means we beat them in the playoffs later down the line.
Absolutely. Guys, I just want to thank you all for being here. Barrelissimo has a really good point, but first I want to give a couple shout outs to our sponsors, Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor, Worst Stadium Club. Basically, we have the best sponsors that I feel like we are so proud to be a part of them. Underdog Fantasy, enter the promo code CSP, and they match your first $1,000, the second 1,000, 50%. CSP for Chicago Sports Podcast. We have a lot of fun dabbling in it. Put on as little as $10 and just watch your self. And if you win up to 5 times, you force multiply, and you can go from like $10 to $1,000 if you play the game right. It's so much fun though. It just totally changes the way that you look at it. And every time, you just go high and lows. Like, is Jaden going to have more yards than Caleb? Yes or no? Things like that. Is he going to have 227 yards passing, or do you think it'll be lower? And that's basically what I play. I play high and low. I just keep it simple. I don't draft a team, but essentially I am. So it's more strategy, but it's a good time. And then we also have set 'em up lanes, um, and Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor. And I just want to give a special shout out to our sponsors. Again, Bridges Scoreboard. They're so awesome. They're so cool. Worst Stadium Club and TC's World of Wonders, all the jerseys and stuff and shirts and hats and everything we've got for him. The flag behind me that you can't really see right now because my freaking power's out. But I mean, we got some pretty cool guys, man. So please, check out our sponsors, back them up because they back us up. And thank you guys for using the super chat the last couple days, especially when we had Urlacher on. I got a super chat. And then we got a super chat yesterday. So thank you guys for using that super chat. Thank you for being on the chat. I like what Baralissimo said really quickly about our offensive line, how we haven't respected or even tried to put together a good offensive line in years. And he's darn right about it too, because, you look back at like the stalwarts of the 85 Bears and, before that as they were building up, man, Jimbo Colvert, you had Jay Hilgenberg, Bortz. You had all those guys, man. I mean, unbelievable offensive line. Keith Van Horn, all those guys, and it shows. There's a huge difference when you respect the offensive line and build from within. And I saw that on the defensive line. I really saw them put that together, and I thought that would be next. And quite honestly, Ian Cunningham, him and Ryan Poles both played offensive line at the highest level in the NFL. So you thought if there was any nepotism going on, Michael, like I know right away, like you'd probably draft everyone out of Mizzou, right? Or something crazy. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
No,
Like,
not this year. Maybe Luther Burden. Having Burden with this wide receiver room would just be a cheat code, but that'd just be a luxury pick.
Yeah. I was just saying basically, like, you would think between these two guys that we would have this amazing offensive line. And it's totally the opposite. I just can't figure it out at all, bro. At all. And, as much as I love the fact that we went out with our ninth pick and got a really good, receiver out of a Dunze from Washington, I think he's a great kid. And I think he's going to be really good talent. But with all the mouths to feed, and a lot of times we're not even feeding him, like Cole Kmet and the backup, tight end in from the Chargers. Those two guys, they don't get the ball enough. I mean, Adunze really doesn't get the ball enough. And you still have Keenan Allen and you still have DJ Moore and you still have, other receivers that you potentially could use or maybe even draft a guy later or something. And at the ninth pick, went and got an offensive lineman. And that might have been the smart play, right? Coulda, woulda, shoulda. But and you look at it, you almost I I was really frustrated, but then as soon as we got a Dunze, I jumped ship right. I'm like, yes, here we go, here we go.
Yep.
I got so excited, but at the end of the day, I knew it was wrong. I knew it was wrong. I knew we should have got an offensive lineman, and yet here we are. And I feel like if we've got a young rookie offensive lineman, he wouldn't be as banged up. He wouldn't be, because at this time, when you look at all these guys that are banged up right now, except for Karan, obviously, they are, aging stars, aging players in the NFL. They've been around for a while, and that's what you get with offensive linemen. They're banged up, they're hurt, they've got mileage on them. But you bring in, a first round, ninth pick in the draft offensive lineman. All I got to say is this: they better at least get one, if not two, offensive linemen at the top end of the draft, Michael. Otherwise, you're going to see tracks get crazy. I mean, it just.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm looking at the draft board right now, like we're at 18, which again isn't top end talent, but it still puts them in pretty good position to get a lot of good players. And sadly, I don't think you're gonna like what I say here, just based on where the draft board is. And if they end up keeping this Carolina second, which I believe they will, which will probably be 33, 34, 35, probably at the absolute worst. they
They're going to go off
probably
a
go
defensive
edge.
lineman.
They're
Yeah,
probably going
I
to
knew
go
you were going to say
defensive
that.
edge in the first, but then in the second, they probably double down with O lineman just because based on the talent, you can get a good guard with. Like, there's a kid from Arizona. There's Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. You got some guys that are projected second round, and even some tackles that still probably move to guard, where you're not going to be able to find the edge talent like Scorton or James Pierce, the Tennessee kid, in the second round. Even Michael Williams, maybe out of Georgia. Those guys are dogs, and pairing those guys with Montez Sweat might fully solve that entire D line if Dexter stays the same. That would be a really good three-headed monster to have up the middle, and then double down in the second, go grab those interior linemen and beef the other part of your weak part of your team up.
Well, I hope for your sake, well, for our sake, that I usually don't root against you, but this time I am because it's self-serving in the sense that I'm hoping Booker is a standout, and I have heard from Sweat he loves him, and I hope he's that good that we don't look at edge and we just go get that dog, that guy at the 18th pick, or trade up, whatever it's got to take, but use the first and the second round and just double down like we did with the Brisker and Gordon, right? That's what we did in the draft, right? Brisker and Gordon. So yeah, I'm hoping. Was that right? Was it Brisker and Gordon, or was it? No.
I believe that was right.
First, yeah, it was
because I
two
believe
picks.
that was his first draft in 2021 or 22.
Yeah, and they came in together, and they're both out together right now. It's crazy. But, Jesus, man, what are we doing? No, but yeah. So, what else did you want to talk about, man? I know you had a couple things on there that you wanted to talk about.
I mean, I think we've hit a lot of them. We talked about Swift, Caleb's fourth quarter. I mean, I think maybe just.
I want to talk to you about the game coming up. You know, I know they're gonna break it
that was
down.
actually what I was going to say. Is that what we should probably talk about to end it off?
Yeah. I think we have a good chance. I think it's going to be a lot closer than we thought it was at the beginning of the season when we thought Arizona was going to be as bad as they were last year. But they've put some really nice pieces together. They look good. Looks like they're starting to swing back. I'm not saying that they're going to be head over heels, 10, 11, 12 wins type thing, but they're definitely in the games, and I think they will get better as the season goes on. That's why I'm saying right now we cannot let our guard down and just be like, oh, we're just going to whoop their butts because we've got egg on our face and it's a must-win game. You know what I mean? I don't think that's what's going to help us win this game. I think we have to play them just as hard as we would play the Lions or the Vikings or the Packers, especially,
Yeah, and I think this is a really good test for them to respond to a crushing loss. Like,
yes,
how deep can you dig to overcome adversity, which is what good teams have to do.
Yeah.
Good teams face adversity all the time, and they're able to overcome it because they're just a better team. So when you're looking at the Bears, they're 4-3 right now, which isn't a bad record. They just haven't beat anyone that we can officially say, like, this is a really good team. They've lost to good Commanders team, albeit on a fluke end of game they should have won, but they didn't, so they lost. They lost to the Colts in another frustrating way, bad coaching, and then they lost to the Texans, which there's really no shame in that, and I'm pretty sure 90% of sane Bears fans thought they were going to lose that game, and they kept it closer than I think most people thought. But you're 4-3. You have 2 games coming up before you head into your divisional. If you're able to win these 2, you're sitting at 6-3. So when you're looking at 6-3, you have 7 games left. There's 7 or 8 games. 8 games left? No, it'd be I don't know. I'm blanking out on math right now. Sorry.
We had the bye, so we're through 8, so we're up to 9. So we have 7 games in. So by 17, there's 10 games left.
Yeah. So you have those 2. That would hopefully bring you to 6-3 because you're looking at paper. The Cardinals aren't as good and the Patriots are awful. So then that would have 8 games left, which is your entire division plus San Francisco plus Seattle. If you're going into that stretch 6-3, I don't know if 3-5 gets you in the NFC at 9-8, but if you're able to go 500 through that stretch, 10-7 gets you in. 10-win teams should be in the playoffs as a wild card. which would be their goal right now. But it all starts next week against Arizona. If they lose this game, it becomes really hard, and they'd have to really overperform in that divisional stretch against teams that they really haven't performed well, most notably Green Bay and San Francisco. But it's a game that the Bears are more talented on paper. There's a better defense in Arizona on basically every position group. They mentioned Arizona is the worst pass rush in football. The Bears are one of the best. Bears have one of the best coverage units in all of football. And even on the offense, that's kind of where Arizona is going to try and beat you. But against a more talented defense, the Bears should be able to handle it. It just, when you look at Matt Eberflus and what he does on the road, it's pretty god-awful. He's 3-17. The wins are against Zappe, Sam Howell, and Josh Dobbs, none of which have come on Sunday, by the way. It was Dobbs and Zappe were Monday night, and Howell was the Thursday night game when DJ Moore went ballistic against Washington last year. So he's 0-17 on Sunday road games, which is really just like eye-opening how that can even happen. So the Bears are a better team on paper, but when you take coaching into effect, sadly, the Bears just kind of play to their opponent talent level, which Cardinals just aren't better than them. But again, it's why I'm hesitant about this game, because of how bad the coaching staff was, that they've kind of killed my confidence in them. They had to have. So I'm very pessimistic about this game coming up. Even though the Bears, I think, believe are the better team, I just don't believe in the coaching staff to prove it.
No, I don't either, and I don't think the players do. I mean, I think they lost the locker room in terms of, like, you know, you start, okay, when you got a guy like Eberflus, and he's obviously a player's coach, you know, and he's had, you know, the players have had his back, even when they know what they have on their hand, but just the way that he is, the way that he cares for them, the way that he handles them with respect, and is a friendly guy, you know. So they overlook some stuff, but now it's just like, okay, you know, we want you to do your job, you know, and put us in a good position, you know. We got to go out and play, but we're not going to do your job too. Why do I have to do my job hard, you know? Why do I have to do my job twice as hard because you won't do your job, you know?
Yep.
I have to work twice as hard to overcome your lack of incompetency. And that's what's going on right now, you know? And I mean, if we had a you know, veteran quarterback, then he could Omaha the crap out of this thing. But you're really not at that. The only time he can really do that is with his feet. And we're not there yet. I see little parts where he can, but you know, we're not there yet, you know, and I don't expect him to be there yet. And for him to, like, we won't even go there, you know. So, and right now, that's what I'm saying, is that these coaches are stunning his growth. I really feel that way. He could be head over heels advancing in such a way, so much more. And we see all that potential and where he could potentially be with good coaching. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, is like, okay, is he advanced? I believe so. I mean, put any quarterback in this position, including Jay Daniels, and see how they handle it. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, man.
Yep.
Crazy, man. So for sure. And they, you know, back to your point, they need to dedicate themselves to the run game. They have to. It will overcome a lot of stuff because they're looking good. You know, what did they have, over 6 yards a carry or something last game? It was a lot.
Are you talking about Washington?
No. I'm talking about the Bears. I think they had over 6 yards a carry. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you're right. I'm going to try and find that now.
I mean,
Swift was 7.2 a carry.
Yeah, and I think Swift is the one that brought it all up, you know. And then Caleb, I think, had a couple scampers.
Yep, he had that, and then Roshan had the 1 yard touchdown, probably bring it down. So yeah, probably about 6, which is really good against the Commanders' defense that isn't like terrible against the run.
Right. So I'm gonna pick my score. I think it's gonna change as we get closer, but this is just a rough, you know, guess because it's all fun. I'm gonna pick 23 17 Bears.
23-17 Bears. That's about similar to what I think I'm going to pick. Again, I hate the national media when they pick games that the Bears are playing in and they have like Bears winning 27-24. Like, do these people not know by now that the Bears don't allow 20 points in games? Especially like if they were facing like Baltimore or the Chiefs or like I could understand that because those teams are really good, but like, come on. Like, I don't know how people don't know this by now. If they weren't going to do it against Washington, I don't see that ending against Arizona on the road. So they stay below 20. They'll probably pick 17 for Arizona. It sounds about right. Maybe even 16. Lots of field goals again, but
Yeah, that's
16 for
right.
Arizona, somewhere right in that range. 16, 17. They'll get theirs, but they won't get 20. And
Right.
then
No.
I don't know. The Cardinals defense isn't good, but I just struggle having confidence in this O line and Waldron on the road. Again, I hope they surprise me, but it'll probably be a close game. I'll take Bears 20, 2017, 2016. Like, not a great game by any means, but hopefully they're able to get out of there. But I still, again, it's not a game that I'm confident picking in, which is sad. And it's all because of the coaching staff, because they just had semi-competent coaching. I probably picked the Bears to win by 2 or 3 possessions.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And you couldn't have said it any better. With that, I think it's time to close it up, man. I appreciate you coming on and helping out, man. It was great. We obviously on Halloween had a skeleton crew, and we everybody's out with their kids and doing the whole trick or treat thing and all the fun stuff for Halloween. I hope everybody out there has enjoyed their Halloween and had a good time, and make sure you brush your teeth and get all that sugar out of there. The dentist is very expensive, and the drill in the chair does not sound pleasant at all. So, but yeah, man. Thanks again, and everybody again. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a good review for us. We really appreciate you guys. We'll be on tomorrow night. We got a good show coming. Then Sunday morning we have an early show coming to go over all your fantasy picks, those last minute picks. And then at 2:00 we'll be up there at Bridges Scoreboard in Griffith, Indiana. We'll be doing a pregame show with Big Cat Williams and Jim Miller and myself, followed by autographs, pictures, and then Jim Miller will be calling the game during during the whole Bears game. And so far, Jim's 1-0 there. So we welcome him back because we need another win. So what are you doing for the game, man? Where are you going to be spending it?
I'll just be in my apartment. I'll be watching with my roommates, probably sweating out our fantasy teams like how normally every Sunday goes. Hopefully a little bit better of a result than what I had to experience last Sunday. It can't be any worse, can it, Trax? It can't be worse.
No, actually, did I hold on a second. I want to see if I have that. This is what my team is it here? No, I didn't put it in. Dang it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Oh, I should be able to find it. Hold on. Yes. Okay, here we go. Let me go back. Now that I found it, I will load it into here. You're going to love this. The guys did in the chat in our here we go. Da-da-da. Boom. This is what my fantasy football team dressed up.
Fantasy team.
This is what they dressed up as, dude. Trash. I've got like 3 wins on the season. I'm 3-5, man. It's horrible. So, but let's see what happens. Let's see what happens, buddy. What's your record?
Yep. My main team's really good, 7-1. Like I drafted really damn good. Like down the board, quarterback is Hurts. I have Derrick Henry, David Montgomery. Wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Drake London, and Cooper Kupp, and my tight end's Bowers. Like I kind of like if it's my best team by far. All my other teams are struggling, but if there's one league I wanted to nail a draft, it's this one because of the cash payout. So I'm just praying they all stay healthy and I can keep dominating this league.
There you go, bro. There you go. All right. Well, maybe we have to get you. It's a little too early for you. we get up really early for that Sunday, and guys need it because they got to make those last minute picks.
Yep.
Like my brother always tells me, start your bench and bench your starters.
It's funny how it always seems to work out, right?
Yep. All right, Michael. Have a good night, buddy.
All right, you too, Trax.
You guys have a good night. Thanks again. Bye.
Yep. Thanks for having us.